Hello. यावच केलं यांचं म्हणजे एवढं Hello. Okay, sorry for the inconvenience. Let's start from the beginning. It's 11. Let's start from the beginning. It's 11. Okay, there is nothing new in this world. Thousands of years ago, wars were being fought, such as the one at Kurukshetra, to resolve the difference between good and evil and for the purpose of material gain. From ancient times to our modern era, practically not a day on this earth has passed when someone, somewhere, was not fighting over something. Throughout history, men have gathered on the field of battle to fulfill their greed for wealth and glory, sometimes nobly, but more often ignorably. The same is happening in the 21st century, where is where it seems is an unavoidable karmic destiny of human civilization. Peace, on the other hand, is rather elusive. Peace is talked about and even prayed, but seldom makes more than a momentary appearance. Most of our lives, even for the humblest of souls, are spent struggling for existence, either socially, politically, financially, mentally, or physically. For most of us, the temporary absence of any major crisis is what we would call peace. However, peace is a state of consciousness and not a condition related to the external affairs of the material world. Peace is an internal experience. The wisdom of the Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavad says, "Ji- Jivo Jivayasya Jivanam." One living being is food for another living being. From the meanest form of life to the most complex, one life is sustained by the loss of another. Thus, the basic principle of material existence is fundamentally flawed with violence. Peace, then, for most of us comes in doing what we have to do and believing that we have done the right thing. Therein lies the final line between war and peace. Is what we think to be good or what we are conditioned to believe actually right? The ability to discriminate between right and wrong, or in some cases good and evil, largely depends on the extract of knowledge from which we draw our conclusions. A poor fund of knowledge naturally results in faulty consciousness. Therefore, it is not our best interest to speak out the greatest source of knowledge, knowledge of the absolute truth, and familiarize ourselves with that. Bhagavad Gita is perhaps the most widely read book of theistic atheistic knowledge in the world. Whatever knowledge one finds in similar books such as the Dhammapada and the Bible, the Quran, the Surah, etc., is also found in the Bhagavad Gita. But in the Bhagavad Gita, one will find knowledge that is not present anywhere else. Consequently, the Bhagavad Gita suppresses all branches of knowledge. What lies ahead in these commentaries is a look into the vastness of the knowledge of the absolute truth contained in the Bhagavad Gita. Next, at the outset of the Kurukshetra war, Duryodhana made the classic military blunder of underestimating the strength of his adversary, possibly blinded by his greed for the kingdom or by his long-standing hatred for his cousins, the Pandavas. He entered the engagement thinking that his enemy's strength was limited. Hate and greed are certainly poor allies of judgment, usually resulting in wrong decisions and the senseless loss of life. No better examples in modern times need be cited than that of the wars in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, wherein underestimating the will of a people has led to the loss of millions of innocent lives. The classic com- commenters on Bhagavad Gita have all pointed out the blunder of Duryodhana at Kurukshetra. Particularly, it has been mentioned that Duryodhana failed to recognize that when Sri Krishna, the Supreme Person, was there to advise Arjuna, that Arjuna would be a most formidable opponent. History has shown us that wars are fought out of greed, hatred, or religious prejudice. It is simply a convenience of things that God is on our side. The idea that God is on our side is certainly a comforting thought and has accomplished men into almost everywhere that we know of since the rise of Abrahamic religions. However, the problem has always been that in all these conflicts, both sides assume the banner of rightness, declaring God wills it. This is sometimes called the theology of convenience. So, even today, it makes good to strip of the troops of rally, the suicide bombers to their deaths by declaring that God favors our case. It is a fact that during this dark period of history, more people have died and more innocent people put to death in the name of God than by any other single unnatural case. Many people consider despotic political regimes as the ultimate empires of earthly, but the truth is that religious fanaticism has brought far more unnecessary death to the world than any political system of government. So, what makes the war at Kurukshetra any different than modern wars fought for greed or between religious fantasies? It's not simply jinxism to say that because Sri Krishna, the Supreme Person, was on the side of the Pandavas that they were correct in destroying their enemies. The difference is that Kurukshetra was not fought because one side had a different religious ideology than the other. Kurukshetra was a fratricidal war, a family fate brought on by human fault, greed for survival, failure in duty in by family attachment, and falsely identifying the body as the self. Unlike any other war in history, Kurukshetra would record a profound lesson for the benefit of all future generations. The lesson was taught by Sri Krishna in the form of Bhagavad Gita, a lesson that would enable humanity to overcome its mountainous shortcomings, became established in transcendence, and attain self-realization. Sri Krishna is known as Parth Sarathi, the chariot driver of Arjuna, because Krishna was Arjuna's friend and companion. He requested Krishna to draw his chariot because the two armies so that he could see with whom he was to be do battle. But upon seeing the enemy before him, Arjuna was shocked and fell down into a state of bewilderment. Now the stage at Kurukshetra was set so that Sri Krishna could speak of Bhagavad Gita. Arjun became overwhelmed with grief and gave up his duty. As a warrior, Arjun was duty bound to fight, but seeing the ordeal that lay ahead, he could not proceed. The world is certainly full of faults, dangers, unfortunate events, cruel and hateful designs to exploit other, and a host of other qualities that one would certainly describe as well as evil. To quote Edmund Burke, the Irish statesman and philosopher, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to stand by and do nothing. Arjuna had resolved in his mind not to fight, knowing that the destruction of the dishonest Dynasty means the loss of tradition, the onslaught of degradation, the birth of unwanted child and others, and thus evil would be the only outcomes. Arjuna also understands deep within himself that to do nothing also assured grim repercussions. Figuratively speaking, we would say that Arjuna was caught between a hard sport spot and a rock. Therefore, Arjuna intelli- intelligently approached Sri Krishna and appealed for his intervention, knowing that Sri Krishna was the absolute truth, complete with all opulence and knowledge. Arjuna approached Sri Krishna, addressing him as Rish- Rishikesh, Rishikesha, master of sense, as acuity infallible as Keshava, the killer of the Keshi demon, and Govinda, one who pleased the senses, and Madhusudana, the killer of the Madhu demon, as Jana, Janardana, the maintainer of all living beings, and Madhuba, the husband of the goddess of fortune, and a Varshanya, the descent of the Varshni. Arjuna addressed Sri Krishna by his different name in order to invoke con, 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 conscious mercy and compassion for the predecessor. For the predicament that Arjuna was in as Harishkesha, Kansha is Kansha, Kashna, Kashna, Kashna is the master of the mind and soul, thus he is never bewildered or put into illusion. As Achyuta, he is incapable of making mistakes or wrong decisions. Arjuna needed Krishna's advice urgently, advice that he could depend on, that would give relief to his disturbed mind and sense. As Keshava, Krishna is the killer of the demon Keshi, who represents the false sense of the greatness. Sri Krishna is known to have killed numerous demons during his advent, And each of those demons represented negative qualities that hinder one's progress in spiritual life, such as the desire for name and fame, dishonesty, false pride, deceit, deceitfulness, cruelty, foolishness, violence, lust, anger, greed, false teachings, and bad habits, etc. Arjuna was confident that by taking shelter of Sri Krishna, all that was an impediment of his situation would be removed. So this by uh, Om Om Tat Sat. That's the end of the chapter 1 entitled Sanjay-Darshana, from the conversation between Sri Krishna and Arjuna in the Upanishad known as Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga Shastra of divine knowledge from the Vishnu Parva of Mahabharata, the literature revealed by Vaishya Vyash Vash in 100,000 verses. So this is the chapter 2, and I guys, let's do the entire one. So what do you, everyone? Thank you everyone for listening and joining my session. Thank you everyone. Now start the second chapter. So the second chapter is where the Bhagavad Gita truly begins. Bhagavad Gita literally means the song of Bhagavan, and Bhagavan means the absolute truth. Here, for the first time in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna is addressed as Bhagavan. According to Vedic scholars such as Parashara Muni, Bhagavan means one who possesses all wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Additionally, Ji- Jiva Ghosh, the 16th century Vaishnava philosopher, says that Bhagavana is bhajana guna ka ananta ka nitya. He that possesses all adorable, adorable qualities and whose all attractive nature is such that he attracts our feeling of affection and adoration. In contemporary society, there is much debate as to whether God exists or not. First, it is necessary to define what we mean by God his exist before his existence can be determined or dismissed. Accordingly, seers of the truth in ancient India have concluded that if there is a God, then God must unnecessarily be the owner and and proprietor of everything. He must be all powerful, the most famous, the most beautiful, the possessor of all knowledge, and at the same time detached or renowned. After careful analysis, those seers of truth concluded that only Sri Krishna could be and is the ultimate fountainhead of reality, the absolute truth. These findings have been co- corroborated by many sages throughout the ages from and are dealt with extensively in the Vedic literature such as the Vedas, Upanishads, and Puranas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Vedanta Sutra, Srimad Bhagavata, and Brahma Samhita. Etc. Krishna is the supreme controller. His form is made of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. He is the origin of all. He is the master of the cows and the senses. He has no other origin and he is the prime- primordial cause of all causes. The various avatars are either plenary expansions or parts of plenary expansions. But Krishna is the original source of all avatars. When impious elements disturb his devotees, he manifests age after age in order to protect them. Only Sri Hari Krishna should be worshipped as the master of the entire universe. Brahma, Shiva, and all other demigods never violate this principle at any time. Padma Purana. When the Supreme Person descends in his human-like form, he is Krishna, the Supreme Brahman. Thus, Krishna is the Supreme Person. One should meditate on him. One should del- delight in him. One should worship him and make offerings to him. The verbal root Krishna refers to all attractive quality of Krishna, and the syllabus Na refers to his spiritual bliss. When Prash is added to the affix Na, it becomes the word Krishna, indicating the supreme truth. Arjuna has become overwhelmed with compassion for those who are about to die on the battlefield. In fact, such is his grief that he himself is prepared to die rather than kill his enemies. But Arjuna is a warrior and from a noble family. Therefore, Krishna advised Arjuna against his weakness of heart. If one is a warrior, if one is a warrior, it is one's duty to face the enemy and not cover away. Fighting is indeed a nasty business, but when duty calls, such fighting may be unavoidable. In ancient times, acts of aggression were averred and strictly prohibited in society and between nations. When such aggression did occur, rel- reta- retaliation and were acceptable. According to the great sage Vaishishta, there are six types of aggressors, and according to Manu Samhita, these aggressors are to be met with lethal response. The arsonist who set fire to one's house, one who administers poisons, one who attacks with deadly weapons, one who usurps a nation's resources, one who invades and occupies a sovereign country, and one who kidnaps one's family members, all should be considered as aggressors. Without hesitation, a warrior should destroy aggressors, as there is no bad reaction in slaying them. These verses are according to the rules given in the laws of society. Yet the laws of dharma, which are superior to the Arthashastra, state that one should never inflict harm on any living being. What to say of one's family members and superiors? This was Arjuna's dilemma. Being soft-hearted devotee to Sri Krishna, Arjuna was disinclined to take up arms against his family members. But being a warrior, he had to face his destiny. In this state of bewilderment, Arjuna decided to put aside his casual relationship with Krishna as a friend and accept Sri Krishna as his guru, spiritual master. Thus, Krishna accepted Arjuna as a disciple. According to Vedic knowledge, there are numerous planets and parallel universes wherein life can be found. Some of these planets and universes have higher standards of living than we experience of Earth, and some are lower. If one performs one's prescribed duties in his life, then accordingly one is evaluated to higher planets. However, if one neglects his duty, then only infamy and descending to lower planets awaits on in the next life. Krishna has used the word anaraya, anarya, meaning nor Aryan, Arya. Krishna has used the word Arya, meaning non-Arya, to describe Arjuna's disinclination to follow his prescribed Vedic duties. For centuries, there have been much controversy about who is an Arya and whether the Arya came from. For the most part, all such considerations have been based upon bodily dis- designations in order to establish one race of people as superior to another. But in Bhagavad Gita, according to the words of Sri Krishna, the Aryas are those who carry out their duties in accordance with the Vedic justifications. Thus, it is understood that the word Aryan does not pertain to a particular race of people but to a conception of life and way of living. Knowledge of the eternal existence of the infinite consciousness Krishna and the finite individual unit of consciousness Atma or the Self is the key of all Vedic wisdom. This will be the central theme of Krishna's instructions of Arjuna in this chapter. Arjuna is lamenting for the loss of the body, but Sri Krishna does not approve of his lamentation and reminds Arjuna that all living beings are external. Krishna says that he, Arjuna, and all those present on the field of battle are eternal personalities. They have existed eternally in the past and they will exist eternally in the future. Arjuna is an accomplished student of Vedic thoughts and an association of Sri Krishna, an associate of Sri Krishna. But for the benefit of those who will study this erudite conversation in the future, Arjuna is feigning bewilderment and confusion just to encourage the discourse. Arjuna is considered a liberated personality and thus he is actually above ignorance and bewilderment. Although consciousness is eternal, the material body does not share this quality. The body passes through the stage of birth, childhood, youth, old age, disease and death. At death, consciousness transfer into another body according to the laws of material nature karma and begins the cycle yet again. The ever-changing body never bewilders those who are cognizant of the difference between the material body and consciousness. Embodied consciousness is said to have five stages known as the Panchakosha. Ananto satisfies our existence by eating as seen in children. Pranayama, consciousness of the preservation of one's body. Mono, Manomaya, the stage of mental awareness. Vina, Vinanamaya, the cultivation of consciousness based on higher knowledge, understanding one is not his material body, and Anandamaya, cultivating and entering into one's relationship with the Supreme as part and piece of Krishna. The first three stages, Anandamaya, Pranamaya, and Manomaya, return to all living beings that are caught in the doldrums of material sense enjoyment. Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya concerns those who have acquired knowledge of self-realization, vijnana, and perfection, Ananda. Those who are asleep simply absorbed in bodily identification never experience the world beyond their sense perception. Heat and cold, happiness and distress, pleasure and pain, birth and death. These are the perceptions of life experienced by those with no knowledge of conscious, but those who are liberated from the bodily concept of life are awake in the conscious world and are always in balance, even in the face of opposing and contradictory situations in the material world, they are undisturbed. Herein, Sri Krishna is retreating the superiority of consciousness over matter since the time of Darwin and even amongst some philosophers of ancient India such as Charvaka up to the present days. There are those who think that life arises out of matter. The Big Bang theory and the other contemporary scientific ideas also support this opinion. However, the problem with such thinking is that there is no concrete evidence what whatsoever to explain or demonstrate how lifeless matter even developed the symptoms of life. The theory of evolution, as the Darwins understand it, is substantially defeated in the fossils record since no transitional species that are supposed to reveal the gradual evolution of living organisms from primitive species to advanced life forms have ever been discovered. Furthermore, there is no suitable model to explain where matter originated. The numerous theories, new and ancient, that expound that life arose from matter are fundamentally flawed in many ways. On the other hand, from observing microscopic living creatures to giant creatures like the elephant and whale, it is self-evident that lives come from life. Thus, the Vedic perspective of on life is that all life comes from an intelligent life source, Sri Krishna. Scientific interest in finding the cause of the universe and indeed to all life is certainly valuable. Yet, when all reasonable and honest research lead us to the conscious that life or consciousness is not a byproduct of matter and the blueprint of intelligent design can be observed everywhere and in all things, then it should also be intelligently concluded that superconsciousness is the cause of matter, the universe, and all living things. It, it is sometimes thought that God or some source of higher intelligence has created life in the universe, but here in Sri Krishna expressed that the individual consciousness of a living being is never actually created. It exists eternally as part and parcel of Krishna, as part and parcel of the super consciousness. In the Vedic concept of the absolute truth, Krishna exists eternally along with his energies. Consciousness, by that measure, is never created. It simply exists eternally as part and parcel of absolute truth. The characteristics of consciousness and described as unborn, eternal, indis- indestructible, and timeless, that which is not destroyed when the body is destroyed. The effects of time on the material body are perceived as growth, the maintenance byproduct, old age, dividing, and death. But consciousness begins transcendental to matter, transcendents time, and therefore never grows old, divined less or duties. In certain religious traditions, the Creator is sometimes visualized as being an honest man in the sky. He is naturally thought of as old because he has feathered the universe a long time ago and he is the oldest of all. But here is the conception of Bhagavad Gita differs dramatically. Consciousness is ever fresh, and the source consciousness, the super conscious being, is always youthful and never old. Those who are engrossed in material affairs and who ignore the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita will find it very difficult to overcome the bodily concept of life and understand the difference between matter and concept. This is quite big, so I can't learn or I can't read fully. So I think I, I think I will read up to that. So that's it. Uh, Stop it. Thank you. And see you tomorrow. And I hope the more people will join tomorrow. So it would be more interactive session with all of you and thank you all for joining this session and I always want you to believe in yourself, consider yourself and there is a thin line between the selfishness and self-love so try to understand that until next time. So bye and see you next time. In the meanwhile, take care of yourself. Always stay calm and positive. Bye. The session is finally quite interesting.